The key to success on the internet is not competing with the big fish. It's that you have the opportunity to create a pond anywhere you want to. And you can create that pond that's perfectly suited to your capabilities, right? And so, like, and again, I think it's great for you to have me and Packy on here, Packy and I on here at the same time, because it's a perfect example. We're nominally covering the same thing, and yet no one in the world is ever going to, like, does anyone think of us as being competitors?
No.
Like, and why? Because Packy writes Packy dominates the Packy pond. I dominate the Ben pond, and lots of other people dominate their ponds. And you see that not just on writing, but the internet generally. Is the opportunity is a horizontal one. The internet provides an incredible amount of breadth where you can build a niche, again, because that audience is so large, and people that see the limitations of the opportunity. It's because they see, well, yeah, everyone's competing with Bill Simmons. How can you compete with Bill Simmons? Well, you can beat Bill Simmons by Zach Lowe comes along and he does all these video breakdowns. And it's like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like, I understand basketball to a degree that I never did previously. And now you have lots of, Lowe imitators. But there's people, but now the thing about the Lowe model is, well, you can have that on a per team basis, right? What team does not want the guy who's breaking down videos about their specific team? And so that's a further defined pond. That's a new sort of approach to content that takes advantage of the internet. It's a combination of text and video, but it's defined by, it's a narrow niche. And sorry, that's just a long, but this thing about the depth versus breadth is an important thing.
One of the things that I talk about with venture firms in general is, and I use this controversial analogy just because it gets people leaning forward in the conversation, but it used to be, I compare like the pre-2008 days to broadcast television, where you were trying to broadly appeal in a very thin way. I Love Lucy gets made, and Happy Days get made, and all of those shows get made because you want to appeal to as broad a group as possible.
You're appealing to the lowest common denominator that reaches as wide as possible. Sorry, this is one of my favorite pet things. Well, like, the whole economy aligned to snap to broadcast TV. You had P&G making brands that appealed to the lowest common denominator or the broadest common denominator. You had big box retailers that then sold shelf space that would align with the P&G advertising and TV. You had people driving cars to the big box retailers, and all those industries, the car industry, the big box retail industry, the CPG industry, they ran ads on TV. It was this perfectly aligned model that entire segments of the society were predicated on there being 3 broadcast channels. And the degree to which that is the case is still underappreciated. People are like, why is TV still going on? Like, who watches TV anymore? It's because we have all these massive companies that are so locked into this model. The model actually persists. If you were starting from scratch, would you have P&G? Would you have these companies? No, you would have a completely different approach. But they're so big and have so much sort of what's we're looking for? Momentum. What's that for momentum? When you just keep going, inertia, that it actually leaves this structure in place for far longer. People have been predicting the death of TV for 25 years. Still hasn't happened. And it's because you have all this sort of inertia behind it.
No, and that's the analogy I'll draw to the venture industry as well. Is the broadcast television days were the days of, where you could just be broadly appealing to a narrow subset. And the analogy I use now in the venture world is, like, we don't live in a ranked choice primary process, right? Jeb Bush loses, Donald Trump wins. It's better to be deeply appealing to a narrow subset than it is broadly appealing, but kind of milquetoast in that way. And so I think we're sort of seeing it in the venture industry as well. And it's true of, we're seeing these healthcare specific early stage funds getting started, or we're seeing Packy start with Not Boring and have all the distribution, right? Or we're seeing fintech only late stage funds that all their LPs are banks, right? And so if you're not going to be thought of for something, you're going to be thought of for nothing. And something that I think venture firms in general are sort of existentially thinking about, of like where we exist in this whole spectrum, right? And so it's true of broadcast television. I mean, it's true of CPG. I think everything's sort of going through this in some way, shape, or form, enabled by the internet.
And yet at the same time, if you're still Sequoia, you have so much brand, like, it's like Sequoia is like the P&G, right? Everyone knows who you are, and you still have and so you can coexist. But if you're a new venture fund, you shouldn't say, I'm going to be the next Sequoia. Like that. You're 50 years too late for that.
100%.